Welcome back to the Crochet Crowd as well as my friends over at yarnspirations.com. I'm your host Mikey. Today I'm going to be taking you through this pillow. I'm going to be going through the texture work only on this pillow, and this pillow is using the brand new Caron Cotton Cakes in the large format, and you only need two balls, one for the front, one for the back, and I'm recommending that you do both at the same time. What we're going to be doing as well today is that I'm going to give you some advice that is not in this pattern, and also I'm going to be taking you through each of the steps involved in order to do this. So let's take a look at the sample first, and then we're going to come back and really dive heavily into today's project. So on screen is two examples. You're only seeing one so far. So this is the final that I ended up with. I ended up doing the sample twice. Well, I did half of the first sample and then I quit and then I started a new sample. The reason for it is that this beautiful texture work down here creates tension because you're using some slip stitching involved. And when I look at the first example, look at the difference here. So it's recommending a 4mm size G crochet hook, but then also once you get to this level here, it totally wants to blow up and expand. But I find with the slip stitching it's really hard to get this to stretch out to hit this level. So I was thinking to myself, what am I gonna do? So I talked to Daniel about it and he says I would increase the hook size for this sections here. So this section appears not only in the front, the first, but it also appears in the end. So what I'm going to recommend to you today, you can try it if you want to, a 4mm size G, because that's what's recommended, but I find when I use slip stitching I'm too tight. So what I did is that I increased my hook to a 5mm size H for these sections here, and then I went back to the 4mm size G that the designer is recommending. So you can see the difference here. See how this is more open because I used a 5mm here and then I switched back to the 4 for here. Therefore this will be just fine. So when I go to sew this together around the pillow, there should not be any tension involved like it is for this particular one. The sample is not a mistake. It's just for myself. I know that I'm really tight with my stitch work when it comes to slip stitching, so that's something that I would recommend today. So on screen here is my written notes that I write in order to produce these tutorials. What I'm gonna do is that I'm gonna scan a copy of these and leave these on the crochetcrowd.com with this particular pattern so that you can download these, because I make notes on here in order to have the repeat patterns doing right. Sometimes it says go into 5.5 inches. Well, I want to know what 5.5 inches is so I can see it. So it all makes sense. It's just I write extra notes. So I'll provide those to you. One thing that I would like to point out to you is that the stitch diagram key is missing the symbol of the front loop only, so it's like a used shape, front loop only, and that does appear one time here in row number 18 that you see. So that will appear, and I put FLO for flow. So let me take you through what I did for the notes, and then I will go then even further into this tutorial. So in my notes here, what's gonna happen is that I'm gonna teach you how to do the repeat. So in order to do the first section, it's a repeating of 4 rows that you see. So you see a lot of half moon shapes and etc. Those mean that it's always in the back loop. So every time you turn your work, it's always in the back, which gives you the strong texture that you see right here. So what's gonna happen is that you're going to repeat this a total of 5 times. So this is number 1, and then you're gonna repeat it 4 more times. So I put there 5 times total. And once you get that 5 times total, it gives you about 5.5 inches. And then you move on to the next row. So 1 and 2. So this is a transitional row here, and I wrote notes here. This is a half double crochet front post, this one here. You can find that in the stitch key, but sometimes I just like to write it down there, less paper. So what I have here also then is that we have to repeat this section here a set number of times, and it's really easy to be able to count this, and I will take you through that as well. So this is row number 2, 3, 4 all the way through 7. You repeat it again 8 through 13, and then 14, 15, and then once you get the 15th, you can see that the 16th is here, and then the 17th, and then the next 2 rows then are the transition like you saw already down here. So this is a neat thing. So how many of these crisscrosses are you gonna need? I figured it out, it's 4. So when you look at the exact sample, just like you see, you'll be able to count them. So see how it's a diamond shape? So 1, 2, 3, 4. So you should be able to count 4 diamonds up. So don't count the ones starting up here, count the ones down here. So 1, 2, 3, 4, and once you get that done, then you know the repeat is done. So you're able to see what's going on. Once we get back to the top, then we have a transitional rows here, 18 and 19 transition back, and then we begin again until you see what we did in the very beginning. So it says repeat, so a certain amount of inches that it requires, a whole inches. And what I decided to do is that I told you here, see 5 indents on the edge. So if you look at the very top of this, you should see 5 indents. So I see, so this is only a half one, so you don't count that one. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. then you're done. So it's a kind of a neat example. So if you can count stuff like that, it saves you a lot of grief, and this pillow is not hard to do, and you'll find that it actually works up pretty quickly. And what I'm strongly recommending is that when you have to use 2 balls anyway, so what I would recommend to you is that when you start this, get and do both at the same time. So do the front section with the 1 ball, do the other half like the other side with the second ball, and then therefore you can lay it on top of each other and know that you're exactly at the right point, and then move along. So here's my goal for you today. I'm going to show you how to do the repeat section for number 1, and then you have to end on the wrong side so that you can start then the next section of next rows. So I'm going to show you this one time, and then I'm going to tell you to repeat a certain amount of times, and then I'll show you the next row, and then I'm going to demonstrate for you rows number 1 through 7 and tell you to keep repeating it. So you repeat it all the way 8 to 13 again, and then 14 to 15, and then I'm gonna pick up again when it comes to 16 and 17 to be able to do the flow in order to make it work. So in order to continue to go through, we're then gonna do another transition, and then we're going to do the final. So my goal today is that you might have to come back and do your sections and then come back to the video and then follow the next section up. It's just a lot easier than it is to watch me do this whole thing on camera, like section by section as a complete whole. So without further ado, let's grab, I told you that my tension is going to be tight, so you can either go the 4mm size G that it's adjusting, or I would recommend a 5mm size H crochet hook, and you may want to check your tension on that one just to make sure, and you won't really be able to know your tension until you get to this section up here. So you have to make a judgment call, and that's what I would do if you were me and I were you. Okay, ready? Let's begin to start, and let's begin right along the bottom. So let's begin section number 1. I'm gonna create a slip knot to begin, and I'm sorry about such a long-winded intro here. So I need you to chain a total of 68. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and go all the way to 68, and meet me back here in just a moment. So I technically have my 68 already on the hook. So what I'm gonna do is that the very edges have 6 stitches that are the same. So there's gonna be slip stitching in the first 6. So second chain from the hook, we're gonna slip stitch. Everything else in the middle is always in groups of 5. So 5, 5, 5, 5 all the way to the end, and then the final section over here has 6 again. So if you remember that you have 6's on the edges and it's 5's in the middle, it's a lot easier to remember. You're also going to start second guessing yourself whether it's looking right until you really get into row number 4 or 5. Then you can really start to see it playing out before your eyes, but you start to second guess whether you're doing it right or not. At least that was happening for me. Let's begin row number 1. Begin row number 1, second chain from the hook. Keep your tension nice and loose, and just go into the back loop only of the chain and just pull through and through. So that was 1 of 6. So do the next one. So 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. So the next 5, so everything's now in groups of 5s now that you've done your edge. So the next 5 are gonna be a half double crochet. So 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Then the next 5 are slip stitching again. So it's just slip and slip, and this is gonna be 2, 3, 4, and 5. So what I want you to do is just alternate between the 2, so 5's and 5's, slip stitching and half double crochet, and meet me on the very end. Make sure that in the very end we're gonna end up with the same thing, so there'll be 6 slip stitches on the end. So I'll meet you there in just a moment. So please just keep alternating between the 2 stitches in groups of 5. So when you come all the way back across, the final 6 are slip stitching. So you should end up with the right number if you've been keeping count. So this is 2. Make sure that you are counting right at the end. 3, 4, 5, and 6. So this is row number 1, and now we're gonna turn our work, and the repeat pattern for this section is gonna be rows number 2 through 5, and we're gonna begin to do this next. So I'm going to be showing you some visual techniques, but we haven't got there enough to show you that yet. And let's begin row number 2. So row number 2, we're going to start off here and we're going to just chain 2. Does not count as a half double crochet in this pattern at all when you go to do that. And in the same one right directly below, you are just in the back loop only. You're gonna play in the back loops now going forward. You are an intermediate level crocheter, so you have 2 loops. Remember, the furthest one that is away from you is the back loop. The one that's closest to you is the front loop. So just go in the back loops only, and I want you to half double crochet for the first 6. So let's count those out. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and I want 6. So that is your first 6. So see how it's kind of just looking at it here, this is where the half double crochets are, and now the next 5 in a row, so everything's in groups of 5 again. So just it's on the end, so that's only 6. So 1 slip stitch and 2, 3, 4 and 5. And now the next 5 are half double crochets again, and you're just gonna alternate between the 2. I would recommend that you just count as you go. It just is a little easier. So 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5. Okay, so please do that then going all the way across. So the next 5 are slip stitching, and I'll see at the end where there's gonna be 6 stitches left. Because you started off with the half double crochet, the final will be a half double crochet. It's always the same on both sides. So please alternate between the 2 and continue across. So I'm coming up to the end of the row, and there should be 6 half double crochets left at the end. So continue in the back loops only. This is number 2, 3, 4, 5, and don't forget the last one, number 6. So we're gonna turn and work and now go to row number 3. So row number 3 is exactly what we just did. So every 2 rows are exactly identical to each other. So we started off with half double crochets, we're gonna continue with half double crochets, and then we switch then to slip stitching in the future for rows number 4 and 5. So let's chain up 2, does not count as anything, and just match exactly what you have. So you're gonna half double crochet in the back loop only for the first 6. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and 6. And then the next 5 in a row, so everything's now in groups of 5, it's all gonna be slip stitching. So 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5, and then the next 5 are all half double crochets. So 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5, and continue to alternate back and forth. You are now gonna start seeing the pattern now materializing right before your eyes of the texture. Please do that all the way across. The last 6 will be half double crochets for row number 3 as we continue along. So I'm just finishing up row number 3, and the last 6 are each 1 half double crochet. So this is number 3 of 6, 4, 5, and continue to the back loop right to the end, 6. So rows number 4 and 5 are exactly identical to what we had started off in the very beginning. So we're gonna just not chain 1. We're immediately just going to slip into the back loop only, okay, and then pull through and through. So that's 1 of 6. So that's slip stitching. So this is 2, 3, 4, 5 and 6. And so the next 5, what do you think they are? They're half double crochets. So we're just alternating what was already there below, so we're just changing it. So 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5. So within groups of 5, so the next 6 in a row are, or sorry, 5 in a row are slip stitching. So 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5, and then continuing just like that all the way across. So this is row number 4, and then row number 5 is exactly identical to this, and then that's the end of the repeat pattern for the first section. You want a total of 5 of these. So this is one of 5 that we're gonna do. So let's continue along all the way to the end. So just continue to alternate. So coming up to the last 6 stitches, or last 6, yep, it's slip stitching. So this is number 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. So turning, and now we're gonna go for row number 5, which is the end of the repeat, and you can really start seeing that the texture is beautiful. Let's begin row number 5. It's exactly what we just did. So just turning it around and just getting the back loop only, so you're not chaining one first, and slip stitching in the first 6. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. So then the next 5 in a row are exactly what you see. So it's a half double crochet. So 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. So alternate. This is row number 5, and you really can start seeing that the pattern is beautiful, and you can see that they're kind of opening up here like butterflies, and then opening up here, and if you turn it around you'll see that the texture is identical on both sides. So let's finish up this row. This is row number 5, and this is the end of the repeat then for the first number section. So we're gonna repeat this 4 more times to give you a total of 5, and then that's it. So let's continue then across. So coming up to the end of row number 5, there will be 6 on the end as always. So I shouldn't have to keep saying that, but I am, because I have a problem. So continuing to do 6 all the way to the end, and that's the end of the repeat that we have. So let's turn our work. So you can really see the indentations in this particular project. So let's bring back the original sample, and what I want you to look for, if you know what to look for, it's a lot easier to be able to recount. So what we have here is, if you turn it over, you should be able to count 5 what appears to be an indent. So this is 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, and make sure that you are continuing to do rows number 4 and 5 over top of it. Okay, so this is a repeat 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, and this is rows number 4 and 5 that you see when it comes back. And then what we're going to do then is that we're gonna continue then into the next row, which is 2 rows of transition, and then we're gonna get into the lattice work next. So please repeat that, and what I'd recommend is do both panels at the same time, and therefore you'll have those ready to go, and then you can go to the transitional next. So when you go to finish off row number 4, row number 5, then what we're going to do then is that we're gonna continue then and start into the next row. So make sure you end on the wrong side, which is the end of row number 5. So once you get your repeats done, then these are done 5 times. You're then going to continue now up and do these 2 transitional rows here. So the next row here, this is a double crochet in the back loop only, going all the way across, and then we're gonna chain 2. Does not count as a double crochet or half double crochet. You're gonna half double crochet in the same one, and then you're gonna do a half double crochet in the front post. And when you do that, what's gonna happen is that it's going to create the texture work in order to finish off this particular section right in the very beginning, and then get us ready then for the next section that is all the lattice work. So as we begin the first 1 and 2 rows of the transitional, I have switched now back to a 4mm size G crochet hook because of tension. So I increase my hook here because I know that I'm tight with my slip stitching, but now I'm going back to the hook that it's recommending, and you will notice that this will work out. So if you continue with the same hook, you'll end up with the big bulge if you have a tension issue like I do. So you're going to create a chaining of 3, which is your first double crochet, and in the back loops only all the way across, I want you to double crochet. So sticking with that, and you will notice that the stitches will appear a little bit tighter, but because of the tension of the very first section, it's a really good opportunity to keep things in balance when you do that. So that's up to you. You can make a decision that's right for you, but if you end up with a big bulge, you know the problem is within your tension, and you can fix it with the crochet hook if you decided to. And let's continue then, and all the way across have our double crochet in the back loops. Just make sure you go right into the very end. When you're coming all the way across, you can easily skip that stitch. Now the very first time I ever did this, I noticed that because I was using the same size crochet hook, this row here ended up being really fanned out, and when you look at the original sample like I showed you in the beginning of the tutorial, you'll notice that it happened, and you can see it right here if your tension is a bit off. So let's continue to row number 2, and this is going to tell us what side is the front side and what side is the back side if you haven't already figured it out, but this would be really clear. So you're gonna chain 2, does not count as anything, and you are going to half double crochet into the same stitch you just came out of. Now the rest of the stitches except for the very final are gonna be a front post half double crochet. So just coming in and just going into the side of the post, pull through and pull through all 3. And you're gonna do that all the way across just like you see here, and what that's gonna do is gonna create a texture, so that where it's creating that texture line, so this is clearly the front of the work that is behind the project at this particular row as we're doing it. So half double crochet in the front post all the way across except for the very final stitch. You're just going to apply 1 half double crochet in the regular stitch. Please do that all the way across. So when you get to the very end, the very final in the turning chain will be 1 half double crochet. So we're gonna turn it and just lay it flat, and you can see the ridging is right here, so you will have obviously a lot longer. And now we're gonna continue to the lattice work. Let me decipher the pattern even further for you, and let's begin to do that next. So let's go a step further. So what we're going to do is we're gonna just single crochet across, and then every other row is just a double crochet row that's in behind these lattice work, so you don't really have to think about it too hard. So every other row you have to just think about the lattice. There's a total of 4 diamonds. So this is 1 diamond, this is 2, and then there will be 3, and then 4 complete diamonds. And so you see how this is ending here, that is your 4th diamond finishing up just like you see. So you're going to do the rows number. So 2 through 7, and then you're gonna repeat again 8 through 13, that's what the count is, and then you're gonna do 14, 15, 16, and 17. So this grayed out area just means that it's showing you that that's already done. And then 18, this will be 18 and 19. So 18 and 19 that you see. So once you get up to 17 here, you just immediately follow 18 and 19 up here. Then you're going to transition then to the regular work that you'd already done before. So I'm gonna take you now through 1 through 7, and then you're gonna repeat 2 through 7 one more time, and then you're gonna repeat then 2 through 5 one more time, and then you're gonna pick up and do rows number 18 and 19 up at the top. Okay, so hopefully I'm not confusing you a lot, but you never know. So I'm gonna chain up 1, and then each stitch across starting in the very first one is gonna be 1 single crochet all the way across. So we're getting ourselves established. The lattice work will come back into this row later, but for now just 1 single crochet in each of the stitches going across. So I'm coming all the way back across then row number 1. So we're gonna turn and then go to row number 2. So the nice thing about it is that when you go to do the repeat pattern, number 2 is what we're starting with. That's where you're gonna repeat back to. So this is where you're gonna reverse the video if you have to. So chain up 3, and then in the regular stitch starting in the next stitch is that you are going to put in 1 double crochet. So every other row in this section is just a regular double crochet going all the way across, and the lattice work is done when you're doing single crochets across, and I'll show you that in just a moment. So row number 2 is just 1 double crochet in each of the stitches right into the end, and then we'll pick up on row number 3 in a moment. I'm coming up to the end of row number 2, turning around, sorry. So now we're gonna begin the lattice work. So this is where you would have to cheat the system if you're off by 1 or 2, or try to be off by at least 1 if you're gonna be off, but try not to be off at all, of course. So what we're going to do is that we're going to do row number 3. Chain up 1, and you're gonna do 1 single crochet in each of the next 3. So starting in the first one, so 1, 2, and 3. And this is where we're gonna start our lattice work. So we're gonna do a treble front post. So how we're gonna do that, watch what we do. So wrap the hook twice, and you're gonna come down to where you did the single crochet, and you're gonna come into the second one before the end that you have. Okay, so the second one is right there. And you're just gonna go into the side of the post, pull through, and then pull through 2 and 2, but do not finish it. So leave on the last 2 loops. You're gonna wrap the hook twice, and now you're gonna skip over the next 3. So you can skip 1, 2, 3, and go to the 4th, and that's where the other one is. So in the 4th. just in the side post, and pull through 2 and 2, and then pull through all 3 loops. So that counts as the double that stitch right behind it. So don't include that stitch right behind where it's covering, and then just move on to the next 3. So just 1 single crochet in the next 3. So 1, 2 and 3. So the next one that we're about to do, the first one is gonna be where this one landed, and then it's gonna be in the 4th one away. So right over here, right where I'm pinching with my thumb. So just wrap the hook twice, and then coming into the same one that you were just in, down here, pull through 2, 2 and 2 and hold it. So don't finish it, and then wrap twice, skip over to the 4th one. So skip 1, 2, 3 and go to the 4th. Go to the front post only of that single crochet, and then finish it. And then that counts as that stitch that it's in front of. So just go to the next one. So 1, 2 and 3. I'll show you one more time. So go into the one that you were just in. See how it's easy to establish this? And then wrap twice, and then skip to the 4th one. So 1, 2, 3 and 4. Please do that all the way across, and I'll see at the end to make sure that you end just right and continue along. So as you're coming all the way across, the very final is what you need to really pay attention to. So 1, 2 and 3, and you want to come into the one that you were just in. So down, and if you're wrong in your counts, you'll be able to know it right away right from this next section. So you're gonna skip 3, 1, 2, 3 and go to the 4th, and I'm in the one just before the end, so that means that my stitch count is perfect. But if it was wrong, this is where you can fake it. You can just move it a little bit and you probably will not even notice. So there's gonna be 3 stitches right after that final one. So 1, 2 and 3. So the very first time I did it on my first sample, I was off by 1, but I just threw in a stitch because I didn't care. So you're gonna notice it's gonna wanna bowl out a bit, just like you see. Don't worry about it so far, because once you start stretching things out, it'll relax on it and you'll begin. So remember what I said, every other row is just a double crochet. So we're gonna then move on to row number 4. So just chaining up 3. So 1, 2, 3 and just in the regular stitch work again, 1 double crochet, and that'll take you across to row number 4. Please do that now. I'll see you here in just a moment. So I'm finishing up row number 4, just going all the way to the end, and we're gonna turn. I'm gonna bring you back the diagram, because now we can see the beautiful work here, but now we're gonna we now have to establish the diamond, basically is all I'm saying. Let's begin to look at the diagram next. So as we begin row number 5, we're gonna chain up 1 single crochet, and then we immediately are going to do a front post treble into the existing one where it crosses over here, and then we're gonna then put 3 single crochets, and then we start again picking up and making 2 at the same time. So on this row number 5 is at the very end, there's not 2 of them like there was here. So there's just one on its own, and then you'll notice that there's 1 on its own then on the end of this row number 5. So let's try, see what you're up to. Let's begin row number 5. Chain up 1 single crochet in the first one, and then we immediately do a front post treble around the existing of where they're crossing over. So exactly those 2. So just coming right behind both of them, and then just wrap the hook, pull through 2, 2 and 2. So this one's on its own because that's the way it is. So you're just gonna skip the stitch that it's in front of, and then just single crochet the next 3. So 1, 2 and 3, and this should take you in between the 2 sections that you see. So let's begin. So we're gonna wrap the hook, go into the one that we just were in, and then wrap the hook and go into the next one. So just behind the 2 front posts, and keep that consistent. So now that you've established, you don't really gotta count too much, and you can see a diamond was just completed. So that, remember, that's in front of that stitch, so we wanna skip that one and single crochet in the next 3. So this is 2 and 3. Wrap the hook twice, coming into the one that you were just in, and then wrap twice and going into the next one, so reaching over, and then single crochet in the next 3. So I want you to do this. This is row number 5, and you can see the diamonds are happening. So you want a total of 4 of these diamonds high. So this is 1 diamond, and then it'll be 2, 3 and 4. So please do this. This is row number 5. So I'm finishing up the end of row number 5, and just continuing along, just putting in my lattice work. And what I want to do, 1, 2, 3, and then this is the final lattice going in. So it's just on its own, reaching over to complete it, and then you're just gonna single crochet in the very last turning chain to keep the balance. So you can see that this turned out really awesome. So remember, row number 6, you're going to remember chain 3 and 1 double crochet in each of the stitches. So every other row, as I promised, is a double crochet. So please do that all the way across, and then we're gonna do number 7, and 7 is the final of the repeat of the section, and then we're gonna review and then move along in this project today. So I'm coming up to the end of row number 6. It was just a double crochet in each. So row number 7, let's continue then. Row number 7 is very much like, it is actually like number 2. So because of the repeat pattern, they want you to stay consistent with each other, so they have given you to repeat row number 7 as if it's a brand new row, but it's really something you already know. So you're just gonna chain up 1 and single crochet in the first 3. So 1, 2, and 3. Now you want to come back and go into the first one that's here, so just wrapping twice. So this one's by itself, or actually no it's not, and then it shares the next one that's right there. So just coming through. One thing I did like about the lattice work is that I didn't really have to think too hard about it. Just once you understand where it's going, is that you can just put your hook into automatic mode and just do it. Okay, so you're just maintaining the pattern as you know it, and this will be the end of the repeat pattern, and then you're just gonna continue to repeat back doing the section again, which I'll talk about in just a moment. So all you're just going to do then is just do this all the way across, and then that will end up row number 7. So let's go back to the diagram, because I am gonna frog a section of this to get me to where I need to show you to do the transition to the next piece up. So as you finish off row number 7, it's just like what you already know, is that you're gonna repeat it again. So I just wrote down the numbers. So it's 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, and 13. I wrote these in circles because the number is technically on this side. So I just wanted to make sure that you understand that I just did that just to keep easier count for myself, but just realize that you are turning after each one. You're going to repeat then again 14, 15, 16, and 17. And then the 16 and 17 that appear up here, that's just the same instruction. It's in gray because you've already done it if you followed this. So technically the last 2 rows are now going to, after the final repeat, is going to be 18 and 19 to get you to go and transition then into the final section up here. So when we finish off then row number 17, you're gonna be finishing off on row number 5. So when you look at the pattern here, let me just zoom out a little bit for you, is that you will be able to count the number of diamonds. So count the first diamond that you see. So 1, 2, 3, and 4. You'll be able to count that there's 4 higher. So it's really not a hard pattern to be able to do, and we're going to then pick up and we're gonna start doing the next sections, number 18 and 19, after we have finished technically row number 5. So in this particular sample, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna frog this out and just take myself back to where I should be finishing. So row number 5 will end up being this that you see. Okay, just like what you have here. So this whole last one's coming out. And it will make sense in just a moment, because you're gonna think to yourself, well, you have a front loop going on, and that's because you need to keep an eye on what is the front side and what's the back. So this is technically the end of row number 5, which would then be starting into the transition next time. So hopefully you're understanding me by doing this, so I don't have to do everything on camera with you. I can just show you the sections. Let's begin row number 18 now. And in 18 it's the front loop only, and I know what you're thinking, well that's kind of odd because we've been doing the back loops. Trust me, it's a front loop only. So because the good side is technically on this side of the project, and if you go in the back loop you will hide the texture that you're about to create. So in the front loops only, just continue then, and you're going to double crochet all the way across, 1 double crochet in each of the front loops. So this is row number 18, and then this is part of the transition, and then we'll carry on from that point. So I've now just finished row number 18. You see that there's a little bit of a line here. It's a texture line, and then we're gonna begin 19, which is the final of the transition. So just chain up a total of 2, does not count as anything, and I want you to half double crochet right into the same stitch. Now the remaining of the stitches, starting in the next one, is going to be a back post half double crochet. So just half double crochet in the back post, and what this is doing, it's keeping the texture to the front side of the work. So where you can see the lattice is considered the front side, of course, because why would you put that on the inside of your pillow? So this is going to create a ridge line, and this matches the ridge line that you would have had before. So see the ridge here? So this new ridge is going to then box it in to make it look really awesome. So without further ado, continue to do that all the way across. This is row number 19, and then we're just going to reestablish, getting ourselves started again with the very first one that we had done, doing this nice texture work. If you did change your hook, you're gonna wanna change it back then to a 5mm size H in order to keep your tension. Again, that's your call. So when I get all the way to the end of this, I am just going to do a half double crochet right into the turning chain. So the next section, we're now going to move back to what we had done already before, and we're gonna be creating this. So when we go to start this particular section, we're gonna start off, and we're not gonna chain one first. We're just gonna simply just go into the back loop only, and then just pull through and through, and then you will be able to just do 6 in a row. So this is number 3, 4, 5, and 6, and then just the next 5 in a row. So now we're gonna be in groups of 5 right to the end. You already know what to do, so it's just half double crochet. So this is 2, 3, 4, and 5, so that you have this whole section done at the very end. So what I would do if I were you, there's a total grouping of 5 near the end. So what you can just look at is, when you go to from this perspective, is that you can count how many indents there are. This is not one of them, just is just where you transitioned. So you can count here. So 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. So there's 5 indents. Now if you would like just to, what I did is I just kind of folded it over and just put the two sides together, and you can see they transition at the same spot, so then it becomes really easy to maintain that as well. So you'll just want to do that back and forth to a set amount of times. It is a repeating of 4 rows just like it was before, but because you've already done it, you should be able to follow that. So let's just cover the basics of putting this together once you have your 2 faces done. So once you're ready to go, this is not complete, this is not done, as you know. So what we're gonna do then is that you're gonna get your 2 faces done, so you have them out. So what you wanna do is you wanna face them away from each other. So this is the outside of here. Let me just back out the camera a little bit. And so your next face then will be pushed up against here. So then you should see the good face of it on this side of the project. So when you fold them over, you should see the good faces on both sides. Once you're ready then to continue, all you're just going to do is just going through individually on one and go to the other one, and you're just gonna single crochet yourself together all the way across and around this whole thing. So once you get all the way to a corner, you're just gonna put in 3 single crochets in a corner to turn, and then just work your way down the edge all the way, and then do log the bottom and then come back up. So because I just joined it here and I didn't add any more in the final, I want to put 2 more single crochets in there to have the balance. Then what you can do is that you can add the tassels. There are video tutorials on YouTube on how to make the tassels if you wish. I like it just the way it is, but that, again, that's up to you, your call. You are the creator of your own universe, and so you can decide whether you really like this face on its own, because I think it's really quite pretty, but tassels are in and it is a style. And make sure that when you do go all the way around, you do put your pillow inside here. So this is a really neat textured pillow, and I think it's a really special one, and I hope that you've enjoyed this pattern. So good luck to you, and we hope to see your creativity available on YouTube and also Facebook. See you later.